This is sort of the main event of the summer. This is the Marvel movie we've been waiting for a long time. Super hyped up about this latest chapter in Thor and the MCU miniseries, as Dan called it. It's this has been a long time coming. This is Thor finding his place in the universe. Christian Bale making an appearance as a super villain. Um, let's start with just first reactions here. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, I'll give it kind of a wobbling toward down there. It wasn't. I didn't have like problems with it, but it wasn't my favorite movie yet. What was great about it, Roland? You said you liked it.
I watched it and I had a fun time. It was a cute movie, and I very much enjoyed it. I will admit, yeah, there's definitely some jokes that could have gone better, and a lot of Thor's like repeating things that he does speeches, and they end badly. But I think they did that on purpose because he's known for doing that, and there's always got to be a battle cry before the battle. So if you think about it that way, it's funny looking back, I guess, that they're poking fun at that. But
I wasn't too familiar with Thor as a character or Chris
okay,
Hemsworth's portrayal of him. I gotta say, he carries the show. He does a really good job performing. I was entertained by him. I
he is
took
the himbo. He is this awesome character that we love to watch. That's the only summary you need.
Yeah. Having said that, I had issues with Taika Waititi's character and a little
Korg,
bit of his directing. What is it? Is it Gorg?
Korg, Korg,
Korg. Yeah,
Korg.
Korg. Um, some of the just the tone of the movie seemed a little inconsistent. But my biggest objection was Natalie Portman's attempts at humor.
Wow. Okay. Um.
No, I kind of feel the same way. Go ahead, Roland. You go.
Wow. All right, no. I want to hear this. Let's hear the take.
So I like Natalie Portman. I think she's a brilliant actress. I think she's great in dramas. But again, the tone of these movies is a little inconsistent because it's, hey, action, crazy visual effects, take it seriously. Christian Bale doing an incredible job. I really liked his character and I thought he performed brilliantly in this. Having said that, when you have all of that and then you're also telling people, okay, but you're also going to laugh. She's a weird character to laugh with because she's got cancer through most of it. She's taking herself really seriously. She's this scientist, and yet she's also supposed to be awkward, funny, and
Well,
go
see, and
ahead.
that's not necessarily her fault. Here's where that comes from. Is the original first two Thor movies obviously were not directed by Taika Waititi, so they were a little bit more serious. And they'd already hired Natalie Portman. She wasn't supposed to be really a comedic relief character. Thor wasn't even, Chris Hemsworth brought comedy to the character, but the way it was written, it wasn't really that humorous because
Yeah.
Marvel hadn't really picked up on like the Guardians of the Galaxy persona
Formula.
of like, yeah, of everything's really funny and campy and whatever. And once that happened, that was after the second Thor, I believe. Then we had Guardians. I think I might be getting that wrong. Then we had the sense of humor was brought into pretty much all the Marvel movies, and then you saw it in every single one. And then we had Taika Waititi come in, and then he takes on Thor Ragnarok, which was, I thought, that was my favorite Thor movie. I thought it was really funny. Looking back now, maybe the jokes do kind of go on for a little bit too long, but that I love Taika Waititi from before, so like that is a sense of humor. I knew his style going into it, so I was like, oh, this is totally his style, and it was able to bring out Chris Hemsworth's personality of humor that he'd always had, and he was like exploded in that movie. Meanwhile, Natalie Portman hadn't been in any of the movies since Thor 2, and she'd
Mm-hmm.
only been a serious character, and now she's being dragged back in to the Marvel universe that has evolved with this sense of humor that all the other actors have kind of picked up on over the years.
Yeah.
And she's just come into this new one, and it's I mean, that would be hard, especially
It's asking a lot. It's asking
right.
a lot for her to say, do exactly what you did with this character, but we're going to change everything about her. She's now a superhero. She now has cancer. She now is funny. And it's like you're juggling all three of these things, and it's like, how do I feel about her? And you're also in
Right.
love with Thor. Like, there's
Yeah.
so much for an actress.
I know I was.
So it's asking a lot of an actor to do all of those things at once. I think Christian Bale, he had like two things to do: make us feel sympathy for him losing his daughter and understand his justification for wanting revenge, and then to be a creepy, powerful villain. He did both, until one line, which is, Roland, you know what I'm talking about?
Before we go into that, because I want us to have a whole separate conversation about that, I want to
Okay.
defend Natalie Portman just a little bit.
Please.
First of all, I think she did a great job. Her humor wasn't that awkward, quirky that it was, but it was just in a different sense. I mean, Thor's awkwardness it has confidence behind it, and that's a lot of Taika Waititi's work, is like this confidence awkwardness. But hers was, the only way I can describe it, I'm so sorry, is just like kind of like mom humor, like where she's been
Yeah.
serious for so long. And
That's
now
an interesting take. You
I
know,
mean-
because there are going to be moms watching this. They're going to need something to relate to. I didn't
But
feel
that's-
it. I didn't
yeah.
feel like a real comedic voice, and it seemed like they kept trying. Maybe the joke is that none of the jokes would land. I don't know.
Well, that is a big part of the joke, is that she keeps doing catchphrases and it's horrible. And Valkyrie and Thor are just like, yeah, we love you. We'll support you.
Yeah, I wish they had leaned harder into the cringe in that case, because I would love to see
Yeah.
really incredible cringe humor in a Marvel movie where I'm just like, oh, that's so wrong, and
Well,
I didn't quite get to that point.
And
Yeah.
Taika Waititi's really good at that too.
Yeah, he is.
Very, very long, awkward things. And yeah, you're right. I think I'm not putting Natalie Portman down at all. I think
Yeah.
again, she's a great actress. I
She's
just
wonderful.
I just think it was just a bit, I don't know. It was a lot of things coming together to make it work. And
I mean, that's what this movie is. There are, I will give you guys that. There are a lot of things going on. And not only is it an action movie, it's a comedy movie, which is a very big subgenre, but that can be tricky to do. And Marvel has been running on that high for a while. But not only that, but the characters in it, they all have their intricate things going on, especially Dr. Jane Foster's character, who in the comics, that is a big storyline, the Mighty Thor, where she has cancer and the only way she's surviving is by being Thor. So it can come off as a lot. And honestly,
It's
I
a
didn't
lot to
know,
put in one movie for sure.
yeah, I was actually kind of interested how they were gonna do Gore the God Butcher, because I knew his backstory, how his, like, in the comics, his wife gets eaten by some animals and on their planet, and then his daughter child slowly dies. And
I do wish we saw more of that. Like where this starts the movie, like I wish maybe they gave us a couple of scenes before we saw him walking on the desert plain.
So,
But you don't need a lot. That was, for me, I thought that was insanely effective, because it got the basics and it was a lot. It shows.
Well, no, I'm not saying it.
connection.
I think it was one of the best sequences of the movie, but I'm saying maybe if they added either before that or at some point along the way, because here's the thing: once you get into the thick of the film, the only time you see Gore is when we are seeing him do stuff in the present day as that evil person. But we don't see him do any. Okay, my battery ran out again. But we don't see him. We don't. I'm gonna keep talking. We don't see him. We don't see any of the background from Gore beyond like the first act, and I thought that was a problem. So I don't know. Like that was.
Yeah.
They could have done better with that.
You know what I will say is that with Gore the God Butcher, his resentment against the gods that, are of his world, and later we see Zeus and this council of all the gods that have ever existed, and finally our post-credits scene where Zeus...
Oh, hold on. Don't say that yet.
Should we... Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We need a spoiler
hold
warning.
for spoiler alert. Hold for spoilers.
I mean, I guess we have spoiled enough already, but it's
That's
worth
true.
putting this up.
Big old spoiler here, guys. We have a post-credit scene where Zeus, who is treated like a joke through the whole, he's flabby, he's gross, he's arrogant.
Before you even get into this part, can we just stop and appreciate the Italian accent that Russell Crowe pulled off in this movie? Because I was eating that shit up. Like if I had a remote to the movie projector, I would have just paused. There was only 3 of us in the theater because I went to see this 1 a.m. Not even, it wasn't 1 a.m. It was like 11 p.m. on a Thursday. Real 3D presentations, and there was only me and 2 other people. So I was like, just give me the remote. I want to pause and rewind this scene, and I just want to watch his Italian accent again and again. Awesome. That was awesome.
Was he supposed to be Greek?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was Italian. I couldn't tell the difference. Well, whatever. I mean,
Hercules
he sounded more. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing in the Marvel comics is that Zeus is the Greek name, but Hercules, who is a big character in the comics, is the Roman name, which is in Italy. So it's just there's some confusion.
Interesting.
Because in mythology, isn't Hercules like Zeus's son?
Yeah.
Yes, that goes with both ways, but in Greek it's Heracles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
What
was the other one? Well,
it's something like that.
Anyway.
Outside of that, like we have this whole. I think this is where we got the revelation of the next phase of Marvel movies, which is it's the gods are resentful toward the superheroes. And it puts Thor in a really interesting position because he is both a god and a superhero who's he's probably going to be Zeus's first target. But now it's going to introduce the whole pantheon, to use a Roman term, of gods that are out there that are going to become the new villains. And how do you feel about that? How do you feel about superheroes versus gods? And is Marvel getting a little lofty, a little bloated? What do you think?
It's weird, right? Because the line is sort of blurred there too. Because Thor basically goes in and he's a god in a manner of speaking, and they play on the whole thing of he's the god of lightning, or god of thunder. Isn't thunder but just the sound of lightning, and they laugh in that whole what was it called? It's something city. Something.
Omnipotent.
Omnipotent city. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't quite think that's exactly where they're headed. Maybe that's where they're headed in the next Thor movie. But I see your point though, because they did do a lot of the Egyptian gods in Moon Knight. We're not getting gods like they called what are they called in Miss Marvel? They're called like Roland. What are the jinns called? They're the in something, like they're not the Eternals, they're not the Celestials, but they're the.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Right, like they give they have the name the Jinn, which is like the more culturally like relative term, but they call themselves something else. Whatever. I don't know if they're gods.
Yeah, I can't remember it. I'm sorry.
But the point is, I mean, they were introducing a lot of this, but I thought they were going towards Secret Wars. That's what Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness implied. Its post-credit scene.
I saw somebody complaining that Marvel is kind of ruining their post or after credits. You know, back a couple years ago, what they would do was lead into the very next movie. I mean, Doctor Strange, the post credits was right into Thor Ragnarok. You know, it was showing a little bit of clip of that, or it would show like Thanos. You're going to see a lot of him, but it's just kind of like I don't know, like it's just like potentially we're going to get to this area.
It's always teasing. It's always teasing, and it's kind of a half-hearted, dipping our toe into the pool of, would you guys like to see this? And they see what the buzz is there, and they redirect according to what.
Have you guys liked Phase 4 post-credit scenes? Like, Catriona, have you liked them overall? Because, like, we were talking about, I have mixed feelings. What do you guys think? Phase 4 post-credit scenes.
I'm not crazy about Phase 4 in general, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Roland.
No. I want Elaborate.
We want to hear this.
The juicy
Please.
deets.
Well, okay, wait. So Phase 4 came in. When did that technically
It's
start?
I believe the
technically, I think
Spider-Man.
was it Spider-Man Far From Home or Black Widow? I think it's or WandaVision. It's like one of those three things. Like is the start of Phase 4.
Okay.
Basically, I think Phase 4 began after the Endgame, or
That's what I thought. That's what I
yeah.
thought. So Endgame is like I was really into the Marvel movies. The only one I hadn't seen was probably Captain Marvel or whatever. Still haven't seen it.
You don't need to see it.
No, I don't plan on it.
Nobody
I've
needs
watched
to talk
enough
about
on
Captain Marvel.
no.
Yeah.
And so I was so into it. I was very invested in it. I rewatched Endgame and the one before, the Avengers before, Infinity Wars multiple times. I was really into it. And then I don't know, I just felt like it ended perfectly for me with Endgame. I just felt like I'd seen all I needed to see, and I didn't really want to see where they was going after that. I mean, I'll still see Thor, I'll still see Guardians of the Galaxy, but as far as a next Avengers movie, I don't know if I'll really be as invested as I was before.
Yeah, here's the thing with Infinity War, with Endgame, there was a reason for all of these superheroes to be interacting because they were all going toward that Thanos fight,
Yeah.
and there was a force drawing everybody together. It seems like and I don't know how this actually holds up to real Marvel mythology to see if it actually starts to incorporate Greek, Egyptian, Indian gods, but it's like, what's the reason for intertwining all of these? And I thought with the title Endgame, they were planning to end the series.
The game.
Yeah.
The game.
Well, I mean, they call it the Infinity Saga. That was the end of the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
Like the whole saga. I think the word saga has been overused. Like, the whole this is the end of the Skywalker saga. I'm like, the Disney marketing department gets a little too far ahead of itself sometimes, because it doesn't. I'm like, those things won't age well. Like, you go back and look at that 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Nobody thinks about it naturally as the Infinity Saga, or I don't know. At least I don't. But
I have to defend Marvel because you guys got to realize the comics have been going on since the 40s, maybe a little bit before. They have 70, 80, well, yeah, probably 80 now. 80 years of just doing comic series after comic series, bringing this inspiration and bringing that inspiration. And, they only started being subtle about things probably into the 90s. Yeah. Other than that, they were clearly hey, this is Thor. He's part of the Greek mythology, or not Greek, Norse mythology. Yeah. But we're bringing in the Greek mythology, and it's also kind of Roman if you think about it.
Well, and we've also been saying for years that these superhero movies are modern myths, and there's been that idea that we don't have religion, but we'll all go to the next Marvel movie. We all know the mythology of that. And there has been this supplantation of, myths with Marvel movies. This is the common parlance of, good and evil, and how we express our ideas about politics, about spirituality, about the human condition. It all goes into these metaphors of superpowered people. To pin that against actual gods, I don't know. It could work against them. Are we gonna?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, going off of what you were saying about, how they basically belittled Zeus. I think that all of that could have worked. This is just for me personally, obviously. All of that could have worked if there was something redeemable about Zeus anyway, if he had some sort of epic moment, and it wasn't just all for the butt of the joke of later Thor saying, I guess you shouldn't meet your heroes or something like that. Which, I mean, it's a funny thing to say, and it's a funny thing to set up to say, but for me, that joke didn't really land, because that was all we saw of Zeus. He didn't have a big comeback except for the end or the post-credits scene. I think if we'd seen him again, I don't know, it might have worked better for me. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, I will be honest. I thought it was very unexpected to see the post-credit scene involve Zeus, because to be quite frank, I thought he was dead. And I'm like, okay, we went there, we had that moment, they got the thunderbolt, we were done with that. So I didn't think they were gonna go back there, and I was like, okay, Russell Crowe made a fantastic cameo. That's all I wanted. It was a good cameo, and we're good. But the fact that bringing him back now kind of changes the context of how he's involved with the story.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really saw it coming, but these are the themes that were presented from the opening of the movie. It's, Gore the God Killer.
Yeah.
Butcher.
Butcher, excuse me. I only saw it one time.
There's a difference.
Yeah. I will say the thing with Zeus is I definitely agree with Catriona that he was a total butt of the joke, but then I think about the whole folklore with Zeus. And I don't know if you guys went through a Greek mythology as a kid.
Oh,
Yeah.
plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty. Yeah. I'm a little bit Greek, so I know quite a bit.
Oh, okay,
about
cool.
that. Yeah.
But yeah.
Be careful what you say.
Oh no, I
no, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Go ahead.
But a big part of Zeus is that all he does was have kids with other women.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's just a big majority of it. He's also insanely petty. So I think it makes sense that, of course, he's talking about orgies and all this stuff, and he's had some years inactive, and this is kind of all he's focusing on about, and then him somehow surviving. That's probably when he's like, I was really petty about this before, but now I'm going to do something. This is a literal attack.
My mind's kind of wandering now on the Greek mythology thing, but it almost feels like this could go into a remake of Clash of the Titans, where we get the backstory on all of the Greek mythology. And maybe that's just where all of this stuff leads, is just, super, Marvel quality CGI stuff, where we're exploring old religious ideas, like Greek mythology. Maybe even the Ten Commandments, By the way, do we get Moses and Jesus in the MCU? Is that going to happen next?
I think it has to be. It has to be nobody believes in it anymore.
Yeah, I don't think that.
I believe in Zeus.
I believe in Santa.
More than NFTs.
Is Santa gonna be in the MCU?
Yeah, I don't think we're getting Moses or Jesus until if MCU's around hundreds of years from now, and today's living religions are no longer the living religions of the world, maybe, but. But no, can I just say though,
guys, we better move on.
You said something about Zeus and the way they treated him. I think there's a big thing being made on the internet about how I saw this on I think it was Facebook, but I've seen it elsewhere too. And I actually made the connection when I was watching the movie. If you have seen the Zack Snyder's Justice League, there is a version of Zeus in there that's played and portrayed very differently to what we see in the Marvel movie, and it's the contrast couldn't be any more different. Granted, in this case, the character had a speaking role, and you have Russell Crowe portraying him, where the other one was more or less just, they got somebody who looked the part and had to do some action. That was it. So I get the difference. It's not quite a fair comparison, but I mean, if you wanted more in that direction, maybe DC is the place to go. I mean, I don't know if they have any plans for a Zeus-related project, but hey, maybe they do a Wonder Woman thing, and maybe because Wonder Woman is technically the daughter of Zeus, isn't that the mythology with her?
Something like that, yeah. I think
Yeah.
so. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was Russell Crowe did a great job, and I thought it was hilarious that he was just this jerk and everything, because Roland said before, he in history he is a jerk, and he got his comeuppance in a way, but then what we were talking about, the post-credit scene that he's back and everything, I feel what are they trying to do with that? Are they going to make an entirely new movie that's all about him? Because we could have just done with him being in this one movie, and then if you wanted to bring him back, maybe do it at the end of the movie for a little bit, and then that's it. I don't know if it's going to work having an entirely new movie. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if he's going to be a big part of it. Maybe. So here's what I'm thinking. If they do bring him back, it's going to be more he's going to be fairy godmother and Shrek the third, and the Prince Charming is the Hercules who's going to basically try to ruin the day. Because that's essentially basically that's the vibe I got from this movie, that Hercules, Zeus somehow failed, and, fairy godmother, which was the second Shrek movie. I don't know how I made that connect. It's so random, but I love
as a
it.
model.
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
Shrek was the first MCU. It brought all the fairy tales together. I think that's why.
Yes.
There's a
Yeah.
fair
It was a
comparison.
it was a universe. It was a fairy tale universe before
Yeah.
comic book universes were a thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
Infinity War.
Shrek had to walk so Marvel could run.
There you go.
By the way, I do want to address this elephant or goats in the room
Right.
because I thought this was I just love the goats. I just love the goats because I think they used them to maximum comedic effect, and it was just brilliant, absolutely awesome.
It was a good way to bring part of like mythology and modernize it, I guess. Like
Yeah,
just kind of
yeah.
like adapt it into like, all
The
right,
goat
hey, now
boat.
he has this thing from the myths. So I thought
It was just hilarious. Just the fact that when they're like, you could tell like the guys who are like, this is our gift to the person who saves our planet. Please
Yeah.
take them. It's non-refundable and go. Like it was just, I just love the
Yeah.
comedy. I think the first act had some of the best jokes, especially when the Guardians were still around, and anything that they did with the Guardians
Yeah.
was fantastic too.
The Guardians didn't really have to be there. I felt it was such a. It was
Well,
such
Thor
a.
was with them.
I know he
It
was
did.
with them, but it's
I was
like,
hoping to see more of them.
Yeah, like
actually.
they just
Honestly,
Yeah.
they
yeah.
were really only there so that they could leave.
I know, I was really disappointed because I loved them together. That was why I loved Infinity Wars. That was one of my favorite parts. It was them coming together, Thor and Rocket, like the best pair. I ship them. But the for me the goats thing, I liked it for the first act. I think it was funny. But I think for me it went on a bit too long throughout the movie. I think it would have been nice if we'd forgotten about the goats for a while, and then towards the end it brought him back as like a redemption thing.
Or they killed him off. Like,
Or they
no,
killed
you
him
killed my
off,
goats.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that
Now
would have
we-
been funny. Yeah.
We'd understand why they were screaming.
I mean, I thought every time they put one of the goat screams in, it was comedic relief and it was more or less well timed. But then again, that's just my opinion. I mean, I enjoyed the goats because I think overall, one of the things I mentioned in my out of theater review was this movie it was more heartfelt, and some of the more dramatic moments it did better than what we saw in Ragnarok. But it was definitely not as funny as
Taika Waititi's
Ragnarok.
signature, though.
Yeah. What?
He puts heart into his movies, even
Yeah.
when there's humor and
Absolutely.
horror in them.
But he did Ragnarok as well, which Dan is saying he felt this one had more you're saying it had more heart in this one?
I felt like it had, because it in the darker moments, like the emotion, like the anything when Thor's talking to Jane, whether it's when by the way, I don't think I've ever seen in an MCU movie two characters say to each other, "I love you," like literally ever before. Which is a weird thing to say considering they're almost 30 movies in, but I very specifically remember thinking I've never seen a single MCU movie, no matter whether it was Pepper Potts and Tony Stark or anybody, like I've never seen that. And then the hospital stuff, like where she's in the infirmary, all of that stuff, I think was some of the best written dramatic writing in Marvel.
Chris Hemsworth. Yeah,
That
he did a great job
agree.
with that. Yeah. What were you gonna say, Roland?
Well, I was gonna say, they do say "I love you" in Iron Man, and there was the whole like "I love you 3000" thing.
But you know what I mean? Like I'm talking like not like father daughter. I'm talking more like
like with a couple,
right? I don't think we have seen that before.
Yeah,
they've always sort of shied away from that.
Yeah, but this movie was all love, and it was
thunder.
And thunder.
And by the way, like the meaning of that and what that evolves into towards the end, I almost shed a few tears. I'm gonna be honest. I almost shed a few tears. It was just, it's all about, it was all about family, like that's what it was all about.
Thor can just not catch a break.
Dan.
What's real?
There it is. Yep.
It's family.
If I win the segue enough,
I was wondering what was missing from the show today. It was,
Yep.
It was Vin Diesel.
We weren't fast, but he was furious enough.
Okay. Well, I think it's worth saying, especially if you're a Marvel person. Any last words on Thor?
What did you guys think of the Celestials?
It was cool. I don't agree. All right, I don't agree with Gore's wish. I doubt that he would wish that. at
Wait,
the
what did he wish
very
for?
end, when he's like at eternity, where he wishes his daughter back with godlike powers.
Oh, him. Sorry, I'm thinking of
Gore.
Oh no, yeah.
Gore. Okay.
Thor.
Yeah.
After like that huge rampage, I just don't know.
Well, it wasn't, he was himself again at the end,
Yeah. Okay.
I thought you were talking about the Rock dude for a second. I was like, what? He is a kid?
There's a lot of OR names.
But they do show that he's about to have a kid for the next movie. Yeah, that was funny. That was again heartfelt, actually.
Yeah.
It was.
No, did you notice that when he says, "How dare you turn your back on me?" I was like, "Oh, he just pulled out the Batman voice." Like, I literally that was. I'm not gonna let that go because I'm like, "Yep, noticed it." Check the box. Loved it.
And Andrew, you wanted to say something on the one line that you didn't believe.
Yes. Yeah. And then we can move on. There's just a particularly bad line of dialogue in this movie that really calls attention to itself. And it was unfortunately a Christian Bale line where out of nowhere, he just turns to the camera and suddenly realizes, I'm dying. And that's there's no exposition, there's no explanation for why that's happening. It's just, okay, he needs a reason for the plot to progress. Yeah, that'll do it. And he just sort of announces it.
Yeah. Do you guys remember that?
Don't, actually.
It was in the... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I just remember.
It really took me out of the movie. I laughed pretty hard.
It was at the end. They were in the water mirror world. I don't remember what you call it.
Oh, you're talking about when he's sort of thinking out loud. That's the part you're talking about. Oh, yeah, it was a little awkward because I thought that wasn't the most well written part of the movie.
No.
I had a good laugh at that part.
I agree. I mean, I didn't laugh, but I was just like, that's a little cringy because it definitely felt like they got to a point and they were like, well, what's supposed to happen next is he's supposed to wish his daughter back because he can't. But now he has to think out loud because there's no better way to do this by showing it. So just give him an extra few lines of dialogue. And then the actor, Christian Bale, being the GOAT that he is, he did his best, but I just don't think it was they didn't put him in a good position.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I think he's definitely one of the better villains that we have seen in Marvel so far.
I liked him a lot.
And I think it continues the trend of Phase 4 villains being overall more well fleshed out. They're making them more relatable. Because whereas before, Black Panther had a great, Michael B. Jordan did a fantastic job. There's obviously Thanos and a few other examples here and there. But they largely struggled with the villains. And now I think with every movie, they're trying to make the villain not necessarily, as relatable as the heroes.
Sympathetic, at least. You can see where they're coming from.
It's not the butt of the joke all the time. The villain gets some sense of gravitas, and then also what I've noticed is all of these villains now have some sort of redemption arc built in. Yeah. Even Green Goblin had some sort of redemption arc toward the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, which I'm like, that dude did not deserve to be redeemed by any whatsoever, given how, which is fantastic. Willem Dafoe is a fantastic actor. But hey, I did not remember Melissa McCarthy was in this movie. And then Matt.
Oh, yeah.
So that I was like, wait, who's playing Hela? And then she jumps out. I'm like, okay, cool, I get it. But it was hilarious. They had the hammer on a string just flying across. They really leaned into that. And then they went off and they're like, maybe we should turn what's happening now into a play. So when the next Thor movie, I'd love to see the recap. At the start of the movie, we should start with them recapping by doing an onstage play with what happened.
It's a good gag, and I'm glad they brought it back. It's a funny thing. Well, have you seen Thor yet? Have you enjoyed Thor? Did you like it? Did you have a problem with that I'm dying delivery? We'd like to hear from you in the comments. Let us know what you think. Follow us on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, all the places. We're in all of the places. So, like and subscribe, share, be part of our oh so curious family.